Committee will come to order. We meet today pursuant to notice to mark up 2 bipartisan export promotion measures. As all offices were previously notified, it is the intent of the Chair to consider the following items in block. H.R. 1409, the Export Promotion Reform Act, introduced by Mr. Engel. A bipartisan amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 1409 offered by the Chair. An amendment to my amendment in the nature of a substitute offered by Mr. Lowenthal, and H.R. 1926, State Trade Coordination Act, introduced by Mr. Shabbat. Without objection, these items are considered as read and will be offered and considered in block. I will now recognize myself and the ranking member to speak on these measures. To grow American economy, exporting more goods and services has to be part of the solution. Instead of tying up small businesses with red tape, we need to free them up to reach growing markets. We need to come along and help them identify export opportunities abroad. No one can match the quality and innovation that we can provide in this country. H.R. 1409, Export Promotion Reform Act, would give the Secretary of Commerce 6 months to submit to Congress the results of a global assessment of overseas markets. The report would tell us which ones provide us with the best export potential for Americans. After that, the Secretary will send commercial service personnel to work with our diplomatic personnel to reduce obstacles to U.S. exports and seal the deal. Last year, this very bill made it through the House with unanimous support, only to get held up in the do-nothing Senate. My amendment, in the language of a substitute, incorporates language from Representative Sam Graves, H.R. 1909. The amendment says the federal government should let businesses know when there are federal and state-led trade missions so businesses can take advantage of those trade missions. It also requires the 7 different federal agencies in charge of export policy to tell us why all 7 are needed and how they measure results. We need a more efficient and streamlined approach when it comes to export policy. In all, this bill will help grow the economy, create jobs, put money back in the pockets of Americans. H.R. 1926 requires the federal government to work better with the states on trade. It requires the Secretary of Commerce to produce state-by-state export strategy every year. That strategy has to have reporting metrics so we can measure how well we are doing. Mr. Shabbat has worked on this bill to produce a straightforward result. To do trade well, you can't just have some grand national policy. You have to get local. You have to talk to the manufacturers, service providers, small business owners. By getting the federal government to work closely with states, it will increase efficiency and reduce duplication. Local businesses will better understand export opportunities, have a more targeted approach to potential markets, and create more jobs as they grow. This is why it matters. In the state of Texas in 2011, over 40,000 companies exported goods and services from just the state of Texas. 93% of those companies were small and medium-sized businesses, and they accounted for 30% of Texas's total exports. In 2012, Texas's export shipments of merchandise totaled $250 billion. Houston accounted for half of that. While it's hard for any state to try to stack up, I think, to the state of Texas, this goes to show how important exports are to the economy. If we can get the federal government to work closely with the states, then all states win. Together, these bills will help grow the economy, create jobs, put money back in the pockets of Americans. I now recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for calling this markup and urge my colleagues to support your motion that we pass all the items on the agenda in blanc by unanimous consent. I strongly support efforts to increase exports and believe that both bills under consideration, including the Lowenthal Amendment, will make important contributions to our efforts to promote exports. In a world with a perfectly free economy, the United States would not be in the export promotion business, and no other government would be in the export promotion business. But the reality is far different. With our competitors doing far more than we are to promote their exports, we need an effective commercial diplomacy and other export promotion programs. In my nearly 17 years on the committee, I've seen a shocking difference between the attitude of our diplomatic corps toward pushing American exports, where it seems to be below getting more people to show up at the 4th of July party, and the focus of foreign diplomatic corps, which seem to put export promotion at the very top of their list. Now, the measures we have under consideration are long recommended changes to the operation and planning of the Multi-Agency Trade Promotion Coordination Committee, commonly known as TPCC, and they provide for state promotion agencies, state trade promotion agency representation on the TPCC, and greater state participation in the TPPC's activities more generally. The GAO has recommended that our export promotion efforts across disparate agencies involved be better coordinated, better planned, and these measures will help implement those recommendations, as well as ensure that state government efforts to promote exports are part of the planning and coordination process. So I strongly support the measures being adopted today and look forward to perfecting them at the full committee. I've agreed, of course, to co-sponsor them both. I know that our colleague Brad Schneider, the gentleman from Illinois, has amendments that he will in due time put forward as the process moves on, and these will also deserve all of our support. At least they'll have my support. I do want to take a brief opportunity to note that to address our long-term chronic trade deficit, we have to do more than the very limited amount that we're talking about doing here today. Since the 1970s, we have run larger and larger trade deficits. We've eroded and decimated our manufacturing base, shifted million jobs overseas, and seen a depression of domestic wages. Export promotion is not the solution, or at best is a tiny part of the solution. We need a completely different trade policy. That will become apparent when the whole thing crashes, because you can't run these trade deficits year after year without eventually a crash similar to the one we faced in 2008. Finally, I want to argue against a change being put forward by some big American corporations. They are lobbying to reduce the domestic content requirement of Export-Import Bank financing. While the Export-Import Bank is not under the jurisdiction of this subcommittee or our full committee, it's a sister agency of OPIC, which is an important part of our jurisdiction. Currently, for most of its programs, EXIM Bank will finance the lesser of 100% of the value of the American content of an export, or 85% of the total export. There are exceptions to this rule. There are those who want to weaken the rule and basically use U.S. taxpayer money to finance goods that are not, for the most part, made in the United States. We can understand why individual companies would be concerned chiefly at generating profitable business rather than generating jobs in the United States, but the EXIM Bank is not in the business of generating profits, and it's in the business of creating U.S. jobs, and I hope they keep that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back my time, but I'm sure I've exhausted it.
Thank the ranking member. Does any other member seek recognition? The gentleman from California, Mr. Lowenthal, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for including this amendment today, and the ranking member for your support. I'd like to say in 1992, the Congress enacted the Trade Promotion Coordinating Committee, the TPCC, to oversee the 20 federal export promotion programs which were spread across the entire federal government. The TPCC membership is currently drawn from federal agencies with jurisdiction over or interest in our trading relationships. My amendment would add critical representation on the TPCC from state government trade development agencies. This is in furtherance of the goals of H.R. 1409, which are to strengthen the coordination of programs, which will hopefully increase U.S. exports and create jobs for American workers. Including state government representatives would have 3 benefits: improved efficiency, added state expertise, and ultimately result in a better use of federal funds. On the efficiency front, virtually all states have agencies to help companies increase exports. In this era of budgetary constraints, maximizing coordination between the federal and state levels would increase the efficient use of all interested parties in promoting exports. With regard to the expertise of state export promotion agencies, many states, such as my home state of California, have extensive and sophisticated export development programs. Under the California Economic Development Agency, there are 14 trade coordination offices that work closely with industry and labor to sell more California products overseas. These agencies have a lot to contribute to the federal effort. Finally, working with a constrained fiscal environment, we must always look for ways to better use our federal funds. Every year, state export agencies receive some $30 million in federal funds, primarily from the Small Business Administration. Yet the programs supported by these funds are not fully leveraged and coordinated with federal export programs. This amendment would help solve the problem. The underlying bill, H.R. 1409, together with these provisions added by Chairman Poe and from Chairman Graves' bill, H.R. 1909, and from Representative Chabot's bill, H.R. 1926, all fit together and constitute a robust package of provisions to help our export. It's an important issue for me as I represent the Port of Long Beach, and the Port of Long Beach, along with its adjacent port of Los Angeles, are the busiest port complex in the United States. So I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment, and I again want to thank Chairman Poe and the ranking member, Sherman, for including the amendment in H.R. 1409 because I believe it makes the bill better. I now yield back.
Will the gentleman yield? So you're saying that the Long Beach and San Pedro ports together are busier and handle more traffic than the Houston port? I yield back.
Did I say that? I don't recall. It must have been something that just slipped from my lips. I agree that the Houston port, I think, is the largest port in the Gulf.
As Long Beach would be the largest port in California.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Hearing no further requests for recognition, the question occurs on adopting the items under consideration in block. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the en bloc items are approved. Without objection, the items in the en bloc will be reported favorably to the full committee. H.R. 1409 will be reported in the form of a single amendment in the nature of a substitute incorporating the adopted amendments, and the staff is directed to make any technical and conforming changes. I want to thank all of our members and the staffs for assistance and cooperation that went in today's markup. A subcommittee stands adjourned. Thank you very much.
Oh!